I get it, you're staring at a bunch of convertible freezers and fridges, and the whole thing feels like a gamble. You don't want to drop a few $100 on something that ends up gathering dust or, worse, forces you to keep buying extra bags of ice because the temperature never quite hits the mark you need. And the idea of a single unit that can switch between a fridge and a freezer sounds great, but the question is whether it actually lives up to that promise in a real kitchen, a cramped basement, or a garage workshop. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What I'm trying to figure out for you is whether the KoolMore 21 cuffed upright convertible unit is the kind of flexible storage that saves you space and money, or if it's just another gadget that looks clever on paper but ends up being a compromise you'll regret. First, let's put this appliance into the everyday scenarios most of us actually face. If you're a family that buys fresh produce twice a week, you probably have a regular fridge that's already packed, and you're constantly shuffling leftovers to make room for the next grocery run. The KoolMore's 21 cubic foot capacity is roughly the size of a small chest freezer, but because it's upright, you can actually see everything at a glance, no digging through a deep freezer to find that bag of frozen berries. The clear shelves and drawers mean you can organize drinks, snacks, and bulk items just like you would in a typical fridge, while still having the option to pull the unit into freezer mode for long-term storage during holidays or bulk buy seasons. For a home office, a small catering business, or a hobbyist who freezes large batches of homemade meals, the Quick Swap feature 4 cold settings and a simple switch between fridge and freezer lets you adapt the unit without waiting days for a temperature shift. On the flip side, if you live in a studio apartment where every square foot counts, the upright shape still requires a dedicated vertical space about 4 feet tall, and the footprint can be a tight fit against other appliances. Now, digging into the strengths that actually matter once you've got it in the room. The most immediate win is the flexibility of a 2-in-1 system. You can start the year with the unit set as a freezer to stock up on winter produce, then flip it to fridge mode when the weather warms and you need more fresh storage. The clear shelves aren't just a cosmetic touch, they let you use the same organization system you already have in your main fridge. Think bin trays, bottle holders, and the usual snack drawers so you don't have to relearn where everything goes. The rolling wheels and adjustable legs are also practical for anyone who needs to move the unit occasionally, whether you're rearranging a garage workshop or taking it out to a backyard party for extra cold drinks. Energy performance isn't just a buzzword here. The 4 cold settings give you a way to fine-tune the temperature, so you're not forced to run the compressor at full blast when you only need a mild chill. That can translate into lower electricity bills compared to running a separate fridge and freezer that each sit at their highest setting all the time. Of course, no appliance is perfect, and the KoolMore has a few trade-offs that could be deal-breakers depending on your situation. Because it's an upright unit, the freezer compartment, when engaged, tends to have a slightly higher frost buildup than a dedicated chest freezer, which means you'll need to defrost it periodically, something most people don't love doing. The energy draw, while adjustable, still sits in the mid-range for appliances of this size. If you're looking for the most efficient unit on the market, a purpose-built, Energy Star-rated chest freezer or a compact fridge might edge it out. Noise is another practical point. The compressor can be audible in a small living area, especially when it cycles between the 4 temperature settings during the conversion process. Lastly, the unit's weight and size mean you'll need a sturdy floor-adjustable legs help level it, but the wheels aren't meant for moving it upstairs or over uneven surfaces once it's fully loaded. So, who should seriously consider the KoolMore 21 cuffed convertible fridge/freezer? If you're a family that needs extra bulk storage for both fresh and frozen goods, a small business that freezes large batches of food, or a hobbyist who likes to keep a rotating stock of seasonal ingredients, the flexibility and visible organization will likely save you trips to the grocery store and reduce waste. It also works well for people who want a dedicated backup freezer without committing to a second, permanently placed appliance. On the other hand, if you live in a very tight space, are highly sensitive to appliance noise, or are hunting for the absolute lowest energy consumption, a more traditional setup, separate fridge and chest freezer might serve you better. In short, the value of this unit comes from its ability to adapt to changing storage.